series. We get what's inappropriate out of the way, then we go live. All right. Let's develop a theory or two and then move on. Today's theory is called social disorganization theory. I gotta say, AJ, that smells really good.
Yeah, is it? Oh, your mom and oh yeah, Amy's insane. Amy's insane.
Really?
Yeah.
I like chicken. Social disorganization theory. The way to understand it is I'm going to demonstrate it as an example, and then I think you'll understand. So let's travel back in time about 100 years ago to a city called St. Paul. This could be Minneapolis. This could be Detroit. This could be Chicago. This could be LA. It's the inner city. 100 years ago, either you were a farmer or you lived in the inner city. There were no suburbs. Suburb is a post-World War II invention. You either worked in the city, or you were a farmer. You lived in the city, you worked in the city. You were not far from work. This whole idea of traveling, I drive 17 minutes every day, right? I'm going this way, everyone else is going this way because of the situation that I'm talking about, which is social disorganization theory. So in St. Paul are houses, businesses, and because of the fact that you live there and work there, we need to protect it. So we need police. We need to educate it. So we need schools. We need sidewalks. We need garbage collection. We need healthcare. And so the city of St. Paul collects taxes. The taxes are collected from people who live in St. Paul, and those taxes benefit the people who live in St. Paul. Anything earth-shattering here? I mean, I think what I'm saying, you'd be like, well, yeah, duh. But you don't understand. It's not that way now. For example, I live over there, and yet I enjoy the benefits of the taxpayers of Somerset. The Somerset police protect me. Me! I don't live here. I don't pay that person's wage, and yet I get the benefit of the finest that the city of Somerset has to offer. They'll protect me. Me! The village. Don't mess with it. Whatever. I didn't do that.
Wait, so don't we all reap benefits for, like, if we traveled somewhere? Would
Sure.
the police protect us there
Yes.
too? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know why I formatted that as no.
Okay. But let's keep going here. Okay. So what happened was around World War I, you had an economic development where people who could afford it decided to live outside of the city. They moved out where they could get a little bit more land. And so in the St. Paul area, Maplewood. So think about it. They lived in Maplewood, but they worked in St. Paul. These are people who could afford it. Think about, now here's where this will start to make sense. Think about the tax money that St. Paul is now collecting. What has happened?
Decrease.
It has decreased, and yet they have to provide the same amount of protection because these people still work there. So with less money, the city of St. Paul has to provide just as many services, if not more, because now they have to provide roads so you can get from Maplewood to St. Paul. The people who live in Maplewood are the people that can afford it, and now this thing called Maplewood has to develop schools and their own police and their own medical care and their own sidewalks and their own garbage collection, right? So you have this odd situation that is created where the people in Maplewood live in Maplewood in nice houses, but they work in St. Paul. And then Maplewood starts to develop services like getting your hair cut. So they develop haircut places and these things called Target so that you can buy things. Who works at Target? People who live in St. Paul because it's low paid, it's low wage. So the people who live in Maplewood work in St. Paul, and the people who live in St. Paul work in Maplewood. But the people who live in St. Paul pay St. Paul taxes, and the people who live in Maplewood pay Maplewood taxes. Well, that means Maplewood, they develop these things called malls. Did you know the world's first shopping mall Edina, Minnesota. We invented malls.
That's so cool.
You're welcome, Earth.
Pretty cool.
But wait, it doesn't stop there. As Maplewood develops, as the tax base of St. Paul goes down, fewer police, fewer quality schools. You want to see some crap hole schools? Go downtown, fill in the blank. Right? My son just took the Wisconsin placement exams. If you plan on going to any Wisconsin public school, they need to know what you know, and so you have to go to take a placement exam. Math, English, foreign language. So he took the test at Minneapolis Washburn. It's a downtown Minneapolis school. Wow. And I mean wow as in how depressing. That thing was built, it looks like it's straight out of the 20s. The doors are like this big. It's incredible, right? The ceiling is about this high, that high. You would struggle. Yeah. As the tax base in St. Paul goes down and as Maplewood gets more crowded, the people who can afford it move out again. They create another suburb, and in this case, it's Woodbury. Look, that's the inner city. This is a tier 1 suburb. That would make Maplewood a tier 2 suburb. My wife's from Maplewood. From Woodbury. My wife's from Woodbury. When she was swept off her feet. When we met at a wedding. True story. My friend married her cousin, and we walked down the aisle together, and now we're married.
No way. That's kidding.
And that couple got divorced. That's very funny. Nothing wrong with divorce. I'm not judging divorce, but anyway, when we were first just sort of courting each other, whatever, Maplewood was a city of about Woodbury. Woodbury was a city of about 15,000 people. Do you know the population of Woodbury today?
Oh, it's huge.
It's over 60,000. Right? I mean, it's insane. But here's the thing. This is why this visual makes sense. I'm going to, let's just play this mythical, let's try this mythical experiment. If I were to say, hey, AJ, I really like you, you're a pretty cool kid. Let's meet downtown Stillwater tonight, about 6. Meet downtown Stillwater. So 6 o'clock rolls around. Would you and I run into each other? Downtown Stillwater.
Leo's.
Right? We'd probably eventually run into each other, right? Downtown Stillwater, there's a street, Main Street, right? If I were to say to you, hey, I like you, you're pretty cool. Let's meet in Woodbury. About 6 tonight. Where would you be?
Somewhere.
Right? Woodbury is, I don't even know what it is. It's a bunch of intersecting streetlights, right? There's no Woodbury. That is what a suburb truly is. A suburb is like this featureless glob of houses, and then another featureless glob of houses, and then over there another, and then there's a Walmart, and over there there's a Dick's Sporting Goods, and then there's a Target over there, right? There's no, when cities develop after inner city, there's no character. Stillwater's unique because it was a city before it was a suburb. We'll talk about that more later. But again, look at the pattern. Look, who lives in Woodbury? Only the people can afford it. Have you been to Woodbury? Have you seen those houses? Good God, they're McMansions. These people drive and they start working in the inner city. How many of you have parents or relatives that work at 3M? Any 3Mers in here? Okay, let's not be that specific. They work in the cities. Oh, wow. Where? If you don't mind me telling. Do you know where? Where do your relatives work?
My dad works in St. Paul and mom works
And
in
do you mind telling, like, what do they do? A facial plastics? Wow, cool. By the way, that fits in perfectly with what I'm trying to get across. I mean, of course she works at a plastic surgery place in Woodbury. That's perfect, right? Go ahead.
My dad works
The city of St. Paul. Oh, wow, that's cool. Go ahead. All the way to Minneapolis. Okay, so that's kind of a hike. Yeah. Go ahead.
My dad worked for Summit.
For Summit,
Yeah.
the brewing company?
No. Fire protection. They do like sprinklers and commercial.
Oh, okay, okay, very good. By the way, that's perfect, right? Of course, people want sprinkler systems, right? I mean, that's perfect. Go ahead. At where? Humboldt. St. Paul Humboldt. Okay, very good. Right? Think of the narrative. These people live in Woodbury, but they still drive to Maplewood or St. Paul to work at 3M. Okay, but let's keep going. Stillwater. Stillwater is a tier 3 suburb. By the way, anyone see where this is leading?
Uh-oh.
Da, da, da. Okay. Stillwater is a little unique because it was a city before it was swallowed up as a suburb. Right? Stillwater is one of the oldest cities around. People from this area fought in the Civil War. In the Stillwater area, fought in the Civil War, and Somerset, by the way. Have you ever heard of Dred Scott? Does that name ring a bell? Dred Scott, the slave Dred Scott's decision. Do you know where his owner took him to live when they moved to the Wisconsin Territory? Here. This area lived here, so we're famous. Air high five. Air high five. Okay. But again, think about it. Think about now people are starting to move out to Stillwater.
Hudson next.
Somerset. Now, what sometimes happens is somebody will raise their hand and says, "We can't be a suburb. We're in Wisconsin." Oh, you. The border that divides states has nothing to do with this sort of city development, right? You raised your hands yourself, and your parents live here and work over there on the evil side of the river, okay? Which, by the way, think about me. I live here and drive here to work. Your parents do this. I do this. When I go down that road, the cars are just going by me as I, all by myself, drive this way.
Empty highway.
Yeah, but
That's pretty
Boy,
nice.
Hudson Davis.
yeah, I mean, Hudson is probably Stillwater, Somerset.
Wait, is Somerset really like a suburb?
It's
though?
considered a suburb.
It doesn't really seem that suburby.
Oh, no, but we've been warned. The big deal that happened within the last 5 years is that bridge. That bridge is considered our ticket. When I say our ticket, some people really don't want Somerset to grow. They like it the way it is. It's nice and small, sort of hicky.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But that bridge is an invitation to move here and work there because that bridge cuts commuter time quite a bit.
My dad loves it.
Yeah. Oh, it's saved me. I no longer have to stop at that light. Man, at this time before the new bridge, every day I would get in my car and please let me get across the bridge before the 4 o'clock raising up the bridge, because then I sit and wait. My favorite is when I'm behind a semi on the Wisconsin side going toward Minnesota, and it was stopped. It was completely stopped. And it was too big. I could see you are not fitting that thing under that bridge. And the driver, was outside deflating his tires so it would fit. And that was about a half hour wait because there were cars behind me. I could not go. And a cop walked and said, no. So he had to back up and turn around. That was an hour. It was very frustrating, but kind of funny. Okay, anyway, the point of all of this is deviant behavior. Crime increases here. Crime increases there because they cannot provide the police, because the tax base isn't there. So crime increases when there's a lack of financial support in the inner city. There's crime increases when you've got people who don't feel a sense of connection between where they live and where they work. There's this theory that if you live where you work, you're more connected. Think about your parents, right? They live here, but they work there. Do they connect in some way with the people that they work with? I mean, maybe they do. I suppose I could be sort of guilty of that too, right? Do I live there and I work here? Am I part of two or am I part of neither? I have a theory about that, but did you have something to say?
Yeah, we lived in, I'm pretty sure it was in St. Paul first, and then Hudson,
And then here.
Woodbury, and then Somerset.
How about that? So you sort of had a kind of an experience of all that.
My dad, and like all the people that worked with him, all live around here too.
Isn't that weird? Do they ever like carpool? Say a little more?
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
Go to different jobs.
The breakdown of churches. I mean, all of this used to be here. All of it. Churches, schools, libraries, parks. But now there isn't that tax base. So you see the churches kind of falling apart, and the schools falling apart, and the libraries falling apart, and no one's picking up the garbage. And what do you see? You see an increase in businesses that teach you karate and haircut places and drug houses, because the police can't stop it. There's too much of it for the number of police that exist in the inner city area. Okay, so it's just interesting stuff. Okay, one thing that's kind of interesting, and then we're going to shift gears, is a way to fight this. And if you think about inner cities, think about this. What inner cities have done to combat this is lure a professional team. Lure a professional team to the inner city, right? Where did the Wild play? Downtown St. Paul. Where did that new soccer team? Downtown St. Paul. Where did the Vikings play? Downtown Minneapolis. Where do the Twins play? Downtown Minneapolis. They play in the inner city. Now, so think about this. So the Vikings decide we're going to play right downtown. So if you're a restaurant, wouldn't you consider moving right next to the Viking Stadium? Because all those happy fans, they come out and they're hungry, right? After the Twins game, you want to go out for a hot dog. So now businesses start showing up. So now those businesses pay taxes, which increases the police and the cleaning and the hospitals and the schools. So it's a reverse. That's a way to come out.
Why don't they offer like tax incentives to businesses?
Yep,
So
that's what you'll see too. Yep. Did you know, this is true, Detroit, you can buy houses in Detroit for $1. $1. There's an asterisk. You have to live there.
Oh,
You have to live there. You gotta fix the place. You gotta paint it. You gotta mow the yard. There's a huge flight from Detroit because of the car industry in America is sort of taking a bit of a hit, and so people are just fleeing Detroit. And so the city is trying to get people to move back. $1. There's a place in Nebraska. They will pay you to move there.
is it that bad?
No one lives in Nebraska. Did you see their ads? Anyone seen those ads for Nebraska? Nebraska, it's not for everyone. That's their logo. Nebraska, it's not for everyone.
At least they're honest.
I mean, oh my God, I want to go, not. Okay, any other questions? Very good. Let's write a paragraph for your paper. So you need to get a computer and open up a number of things. So go get a computer right now, log on, and oh wait,
Who has to pay for all the things in those rundown cities that they're paying?
the residents who live there,
So why don't they just all leave?
they can't afford it, right? Property is more expensive out here. It's very cheap there, they can afford it.
Nebraska. It's not for everyone.
When you open up your Google Drive, I'm of course assuming that you have written all 4 article summaries. Now, that might not be you. However many you did, open them. Get them so you have access to all that you've done. Now, for some of you, it's 4. For some of you, it's 2. Whatever, I don't care. Just gain access to all of your article summaries. Joe, it's got to be on the computer. It's not on your phone. Okay, thanks. And then I want you to open up a new Google document. We're going to start writing this bad boy. This is, of course, assuming that you did your part. For 1 month, I had you finding 4 articles, 1 per week. I'm assuming you did that. If you're not even there, then you're going to struggle right now. So 4 article summaries, or however many you did, plus open up a new Google Doc, please. Our goal is to write paragraph number 1, and then we'll stop doing this. Will you just give me a thumbs up when you are ready? In other words, you've got all the articles all the article summaries, you're ready, and you've got a new Google Doc ready to type. Thumbs up. Good.
Why won't let me go to my school Google Docs?
Is that your computer?
Yeah. Or I could just do it in my non-school Google Docs.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. You're ready.
So this is our paper.
This is paper number 2. Yeah, in fact, call it that. Paper number 2. How many of you wisely created a sociology folder, which I would highly recommend?
I didn't really do that.
On the left side, you go to New, and you click Folder. On Google, right? Good, thank you. All right, Kai, while we have this moment, game to 21. Ready? You can only add 1 or 2 or 3. You want to go out first or second? All right, go. 4.
How many?
You can add 1 or 2 or 3.
7.
8,
11.
12,
14.
16,
19.
Nah,
I will call my mom and just lost my piercing.
Oh.
I just got it pierced, so I can't really use that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I play one second. I have that.
You want to go first or second?
First.
Okay, go. 4, 8,
11.
12, 16. Keep going.
16 is the magic.
Let's end it.
17.
20. Are we ready? Yes? Okay. I don't know if you remember this, but I had this up here a long time ago. This is the rough draft of the paragraph that we wrote about the Under God paper. Remember, you wrote a paper on whether or not the words under God should be removed from the Pledge of Allegiance. Some of you said yes, some of you said no. We're going to use this to help you write your paper. Okay? So, the first sentence of this paper was, should the words under God be removed from the Pledge of Allegiance? Question mark. If you know what to do now for your first sentence, do it. If you don't know, I will tell you. Does anyone not know? You can be honest right now, because if you have the guts to admit you don't know, you're helping someone else in here who does not have the guts.
What did you say to type for the first one?
The question.
I'll type the question.
Your question, not that question. Your question. All of you had a question. That's what your first sentence is. Please notice, It's not the title of your paper. It's the first sentence of your paper. Cora, what's your question?
Should pre-study animals be brought back to life?
Question mark, right? You have a question. All right. Peter, what's your question?
Is capital punishment really necessary?
Question mark, right? You have a question. Make sure you have a question mark. It's not a sentence. I mean, it's a sentence, not a statement. It's a question. Ridley, what's your question?
Should parents across the world be able to opt out of getting their child vaccinated?
Good question. Relevant today, isn't it? We got a bit of a measles outbreak over there, and something like 80. I saw the stat this morning. 89% of the people that have measles, wherever the outbreak is, never got vaccinated. Funny math, yeah, right. Okay. Everyone got your first sentence? The next 3 sentences are going to require you to do a little bit of thinking here. The next 3 sentences are where you present the argument for the side you do not agree with. So right now you have to think about what's your opinion about the question you just asked. Should the answer be yes or no? Okay, so reread your question right now, please. And now answer it according to your opinion. What do you think? Okay, if you said yes, the next 3 sentences you're about to type are going to argue no. If you said no, the next 3 sentences are going to be the argument for yes. Look up here. The argument that this person is going to make is that the words should be removed. But look at his next 3 sentences. Some people think the word should not be removed. He thinks they should be, but he's going to introduce the arguments for why they shouldn't be first. Should the words under God be removed? Some people think that the word should not be removed for 2 reasons. First of all, second of all. That's 3 sentences. So, should people around the world be required to get vaccinations? Let's just pretend that Ridley thinks yes. Second sentence. Some people think they shouldn't be required for 2 reasons. First of all, blah, blah, blah. Second of all, blah, blah, blah. Notice, sentence number 2 does not list any of the reasons. It just simply says there are 2 reasons, period. Sentence number 3 is when you explain the first reason. Sentence number 4 is when you explain the second reason. Sentence number 2 is when you say that some people think for 2 reasons, period. Understand? What's your question?
Should concealed weapon holder be prohibited from carrying firearms in certain locations?
What do you think? You think no. Okay. But some people think that should be for 2 reasons. That's your second sentence. Your first sentence is the question. Your second sentence is addressing the other side and how the other side thinks one way or the other for 2 reasons. First of all, second of all. Now, there are those of you out there right now who don't have 2 reasons. You only have 1. Fine. Then you're eliminating that 4th sentence. Should abortion be legal? Some people think so for 1 reason. The reason is, right, you've written 3 sentences, not 4. Please have me go over and help you if you do not know what you're doing. This is, of course, assuming you've done the article research, so you know what the reasons are. On your half sheet, the reason is number 9. Number 9. The reason the quote is supporting. Number 9. So your question is, should the use of corporal punishment to discipline children be considered child abuse? Many people believe that no, physical punishment should not be labeled as abuse. Just add 4 2 reasons. Right after the word abuse, right there. 4 2 reasons. Okay, now the next sentence should say, first of all, and then what the first reason is, period. Okay, and then the next sentence should be, second of all, you're only 4 sentences in, right? Question? Explaining that there are 2 reasons for one side of the argument. Explaining the first reason, explaining the second. Huh. I shouldn't say explaining, identifying. Will you just give me a double thumbs up? You are done. You are done with the first 4 sentences. You're ready to rock. Good, good, good. Good.
Wait, so we have one sentence for saying that there are 2 reasons,
Yeah.
and then
And then you list 2 reasons in 2 separate sentences. Okay. Now, I understand, AJ, and maybe a couple others in here. I understand that this is not the only way to write a paper. I get that. I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm saying this is a way. Okay, so don't think this is the only way to write an argumentative paper. No, it isn't.
Oh, you said number 9 or something.
Okay, number 9. Well, why do those people think that you should be forbidden, prohibited from carrying weapons? Why? What are their arguments?
One is what Kyle came to saying it's like unnecessary.
Okay, there it is. First of all, it's unnecessary, period. And then,
Do you know anything about like may issue and like shall issue states? Is there something you talk about that? I didn't understand.
may issues. Maybe sometime in there. Okay, I'm just gonna identify what you do for the rest of this paragraph, well, at least the next 3 sentences. By the way, you should be able to figure out the next 3 sentences. The other side.
There are also 2 reasons.
Others think the word should be removed for 2 reasons. First of all, second of all. Here's what they think, and here's what they think. Both sides get 3 sentences. The first of those 3 sentences is stating that there are 2 reasons. The second of those 3 sentences is explaining the first reason, and the third sentence is stating the second reason. You should be, after this, 6 sentences in. Question, some people think so. Reason 1, reason 2. Others think not. Reason 1, reason 2. 7 sentences in. It's up to you.
We're not giving our opinion until 8, right?
Correct. I should not know what you think until sentence number 8. Right? You've not explained what you think yet. You're simply saying, here's what they think. You're saying, here's what they think. Nothing about you think. Yet. Yet. Unnecessary, and what was the other one? Like those dangers or something? Maybe increases potential for crime. I'm just jotting down. So we're gonna pretend that we are writing this paper unneeded and increases crime. Second Amendment deters. What do you need? She lost her clothes. Here's- I'm going to talk in, I'll say 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, we're going to write the 8 sentence.
It's after we do our first 1 sentences, we just say the side that we agree with.
you gotta pick one, just for the purpose of this paper, just pick one. You're not bound to it. For the purpose of this paper, choose.
I will check this one out.
All right, we're gonna all pretend we're writing his paper. So he found, his question is, should people be prevented from carrying weaponry, concealed weaponry, concealed locations? And he found two arguments that argue, no, you should be able to carry concealed weapons everywhere. It's unneeded, it's unnecessary, and preventing people from carrying weapons increases crime. And then he found two articles that say, well, no, because we need to be able to have certain forms of gun control, and it's a way to deter crime. All four of these will be in his thesis sentence. Look at your 4 reasons. All 4 will appear in sentence number 8. And it goes something like this. Well, it appears that A and B are true, comma. In truth, B and C are true. Well, it appears that these are valid arguments, comma. In truth, whatever your opinion is, because of these 2 arguments. Let's say you're writing about, your question is, who's better, the Vikings or Packers? Some people think the Vikings are better because they have newer facilities and they had a better draft. Others think the Packers are the better team because they actually win Super Bowls and they're heaped in tradition. There. My thesis statement will go something like this. While it appears that the Vikings might be a better team because of the fact that they have a downtown roofed stadium and practice facilities, and they have a better, they drafted better players, comma. In truth, the Packers are the better team because they're heaped in tradition and they've won 4 Super Bowls. And you might think as you're writing this last sentence, it's repetitive. I already said all this. Who cares? This isn't a novel. Be repetitive. You're being given permission to be repetitive right now. But do it in 1 sentence. While it appears that this and this are true, comma, in fact, this and this are true. In that sentence, by the way, answer the question. While it appears that the pledge violates the Constitution and forces people to think a certain way, comma, in truth, the word should be left alone. The word should be left alone because the words under God do not force anyone to convert to a specific religion and whatever the second is, period. When you're done with that, put your computers away. Make sure it's saved as something that you can find when we revisit this soon.
How do I like transition between like the one point of view to the
Others think, right? Some people think this, his first use is others think not, because for 2 reasons. Ridley, do you have is this on Classroom?
Yeah.
There it is. Ooh, the death penalty, good one.